I think that we need to, think about every yes that we give away, whether it's a
Yes.
strategic yes or a strategic no. For me, the helping hiatus was really about stopping and asking myself, is this something that I really want to do? Is this something I have bandwidth for in my schedule? Is this something that drives my personal and professional goals forward? And if it's not, then maybe I need to say no.
Michelle Cederberg is a Hall of Fame speaker who is a health and productivity expert, engaging audiences across North America for over 2 decades. She believes that personal and professional success is directly influenced by how well we harness the physical, mental, and emotional capacity we have within us. And Michelle is a dear, dear friend of mine. So great to have her on board here. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Robbie. I'm so happy to be here. Of course, our messages align a little bit because we do care about mind, body, and spirit in all that we do. So this is fun to be here.
Absolutely. And sometime I want to get you back on to talk about success energy equation, but there's a very specific reason we're going to get into for this conversation. But first, can you share a little bit about how you got to be a health and productivity expert, an expert in energizing teams? What's your journey to getting here and becoming a Hall of Fame speaker, a phenomenal consultant in this field?
When you said 2 decades, I'm like, wow, that sounds like a long time. I used to work in the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer. I taught exercise physiology and phys ed at the college here in Calgary, and spent a lot of time helping people in the physical realm. And as I was doing that, having those conversations with my training clients and all of those people, I realized that there was so much more to being healthy than simply eating right and exercise. And so I started to kind of expand my learning into the coaching side of things, and life and stress management and balance in our lives and all of those different things. Because when we take care of our physical body and brilliant mind in it, that's when magic happens in everything we do. Health for productivity, health and productivity, health for high performance. That's kind of the journey that I've taken over all these years.
Absolutely. And the reason that I really wanted to chat with you today is one thing that I think is essential for those of us who share the stage, to share our word, our ideas, our thoughts, is that we are always on a journey of development. It's not that we know it all. We're always learning as well. And you have had an amazing journey recently. And can you share a little bit about your helping hiatus, how it came about?
Oh, my helping hiatus. I laugh because it still kind of makes me uncomfortable because I'm a caregiver at heart. I'm a caregiver by nature. And I was having a little bit of a post volunteering burnout, let's just say. I had spent 5 years on our national board for our speaking association, and I spent a lot of time giving my time and energy to emerging speakers and colleagues and friends outside of that. And so I was feeling a little like I didn't have enough time for myself. I was busy every day with my schedule, but I really wasn't finding myself moving my own agenda forward. So I was having what's that?
Sorry, it sounds like you were depleted too. I'm reading between the lines here.
I was emotionally depleted.
Yeah.
I felt like I was giving too much. And I think that the caregivers in your listeners that are caregivers can relate to this idea that when you are a caregiver by nature, you will take care of everyone else and everything else before yourself, sometimes without even realizing it. And I had looked at my schedule and realized I wasn't moving my agenda forward because I was taking care of everyone else and everything else. And so I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine. She said, well, what kind of challenge can you give yourself around that? And I pondered it and decided that for the month of April, I would do what I deemed a helping hiatus, where I would say no to helping people. And I still, makes me feel kind of uncomfortable just even saying that because it sounds so awful. If somebody asks for my help, I'm going to say no. It was, and it has been very eye-opening, let me tell you.
Right. Now, and by the way, I love that you have been sharing the journey in your blogs. I've shared it with some of my coaching clients, and it's been such a great asset because there are so many caregivers in leadership as well that just give to their people, but not themselves and such.
More than
So,
I thought, Ravi, more than I thought. And I've had more response on this series than I have any other ones that I've done lately. No seems to be a hard word for even the most steadfast leader.
absolutely. And I think what helps with that is your authenticity in this journey. You know, you're completely open. It's very clear.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting, humbling, eye-opening journey for sure.
Right. So tell me, what's a strategic no?
A strategic no, I'm going to even say, what's the power of no? Because I think that if, like, overall if you say no, you're being strategic. I hope you are. I think that we need to, think about every yes that we give away, whether it's a
Yes.
strategic yes or a strategic no. For me, the helping hiatus was really about stopping and asking myself, is this something that I really want to do? Is this something I have bandwidth for in my schedule? Is this something that drives my personal and professional goals forward? And if it's not, then maybe I need to say no. And so the pause is the strategic bit. To pause long enough to ask yourself, is this something that I need to do right now or I want to do right now? The answer may be yes. And so we can talk about the strategic yes later.
Yes. So now here's the thing. A lot of people just say yes, and it's like, oh, okay, fine. And something powerful that you said often in your videos is if it's helping someone else is hurting you, it's not helping. Say something about that and why you believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I speak a lot to caregivers, healthcare, education, admin professionals, HR, you name it. Anybody whose job, as I said earlier, is to take care of everyone else and everything else before themselves. We finish our work day oftentimes and we've got this extra time, or even during our day, and we're putting our energy toward other people's things to the detriment of our own selves. And we might be saying, well, it's good because I'm helping people. But the reminder of if helping someone else is hurting you, it's not helping. If in helping others, you don't have enough time to take care of yourself or do things for yourself that you value or spend time with your family, or if you're feeling depleted, as I was, the helping wasn't helping. The helping doesn't help. So that's what I mean by that. And it's a reminder, boy, oh boy, that I need to get myself on the regular.
So it's that they feel they have to do it. And they should is, I think, is a deadly word out there. They should do it. And they
Well,
say
and I think
yes.
part of the caregiver mindset is that, you've been trained into thinking it's good to help people. And absolutely it is. I'm not one to say, well, we should just stop helping people altogether. But in a time when most of us are stretched and stressed and, have more things to do than time to do it, we need to be able to pause long enough to make sure that our own needs are being met along the way. Part of, being successful is making sure you've got energy in the tank, physically, mentally, emotionally, to do the things that you need to do. And if you're giving it all away to someone else to the detriment of your own energy, then that doesn't help. And so it's important to pause. Yeah.
Totally. And, also right now, it's interesting that the last year or so is when more, you talked about healthcare workers and such, they're experiencing burnout more because they just pushed through COVID and the pandemic. And now it's hitting more and more of them, that it's just, they're hitting the wall.
Well, what we don't want for organizations like that, and teaching is the same thing, is people are walking away and finding something else to do because they can't handle the stress of it. And so there's something to being able to take control of your own health and well-being so that you can continue to do the things that you love. I'm a motivational speaker and professional coach who, empowers people. And at the, end of February and into March, I was really feeling like an unmotivated motivator. You don't want to be in a position where you get so downtrodden that you decide, I'm out. I'm going to do something different.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I mean, why would anyone want burnout, right? That's the thing. So is there a difference between men and women when it comes to saying no, do you think?
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. My gut says yes. There are always going to be, I think that first of all, your profession can, give you a tendency, regardless of gender, towards saying yes or no more readily. One of the things about, when we're growing up as younger people, boys tend to be socialized into, assertiveness and directness, whereas girls are socialized towards harmony and we're going to avoid conflict. And I know that is changing over time, but it's still present. And so we need to be aware. One of the things I coach my clients with, my female clients a lot with, is this idea that it's business, not personal, because we get our emotions wrapped up, and caregivers will get their emotions wrapped up into every response. So women will often want to explain why they're saying no, and
right,
be very indirect or be very polite around the language, whereas men are very good at just saying, nope, I'm not able to right now, without explanation, and a little more assertiveness, which kind of puts a hard stop to, okay,
right.
well, someone's busy, I'll move on. And I think one of the most interesting things is that women tend to be more accommodating.
Right.
Women tend to not want to say no for fear of judgment or rejection. I mean, I was even thinking about that for myself. I was like, gosh, people are just not going to think I'm very nice. Every time I say I'm just doing this helping hiatus, worrying about all these faceless people out in the, interwebs that might be thinking, wow, that Michelle, she's not very nice. I mean, it's crazy. So yes, I do think that there's a difference. And of course, there's exceptions to every rule. There's a lot of, men or people who identify that will have difficult times saying no.
I think there's also clear research that shows that in terms of taking on the caregiving and such, that childcare, elder care falls more on the women, that they're taking the burden during the pandemic when the kids were home and had to be schooled. More often than not, it was the women that were doing that, as well as doing their work from home and adapting to all of that. So there is something, I think, there's a disparity.
And then you get this this added guilt, which I think is a big one among caregivers for saying no. It's like, well, I should, because they need me. I can't take time to go to the gym or spend time on my own because there's so many things that need to be done, and so many people that need my time. I can't say no to that because because I want to say yes to myself. Not only do I feel guilty, but it feels selfish, which
Totally.
a constant refrain in my videos that self-care isn't selfish. Saying no is not a bad word.
I don't see selfish as a bad thing. You can't give if you're not caring for yourself. The other thing too, you said a key word there that I mentioned earlier, should. I firmly believe that whenever a should comes out, it's not us, it's someone else talking programmed into our heads. Does that make sense?
100%. I think that's the reason why it's important for us to stop and ask ourselves a few quick key questions when somebody asks us for our time. Is the first one is this going to move my personal or professional goal forward? Is saying yes to this ask? And if the answer is no, then it's okay to say no. And there's a second part to that. You might find that I want to say yes, but I don't have time in my schedule right now. But the immediacy or the instant gratification world that we live in make us think, oh, if I say yes, I have to do it now. But we can also stop and say, yes, I want to do this. And the first available time in my schedule is 3 weeks from now.
Right.
And instead of saying, well, I'll get to it right now. And
Right.
it's
Because
interesting
we
because,
think it's urgent.
yeah, and then if we say, well, yes, I really want to do this thing, even if it's not driving my personal and professional goal forward, it's what I call a heck yes. Then why wouldn't you? Because there are times where we need to fill the cup, where we need to, make ourselves feel like we're living our life a little bit. Because if,
Yeah.
why are we working so hard if we don't get to love our lives? An example I shared in one of my videos was that I took an entire Friday off to go to take my friends snowboarding to the mountains in at Lake Louise. She was visiting from Toronto. I took the entire Friday off and said no to some other things. I canceled some appointments and moved them to different dates, and
Yeah.
kind of felt guilty in the moment, but then realized, oh my gosh, it was a bluebird day. I got to spend time with my friend. It filled my cup, and I came back to my work feeling energized, and get to
Totally.
do that more often.
Totally. And I'm glad that you said that when I asked you to do this, this was a heck yes. So
It
that
was
was
a
a
heck yes.
bonus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
So
yeah, to that point, when you ask me, it's like, well, just only if it's in your schedule, and if it's something you really want to do. And yeah, so it was a heck yes. And one of them is getting to spend time with people that you appreciate, and like, yes, I want to talk about this topic because I think it's important.
absolutely. The last thing on that I want to go back to is where you said even you were feeling guilty about it and what will all these people on the interweb say and all that. I go back to the Eleanor Roosevelt quote because we get that sort of stuff stuck in our heads, right? Where she said, at least it's attributed to her, that we wouldn't worry so much what other people think about us if we realized how rarely they do.
Yes, I mean, that really resonates with me as well. And I had a conversation with somebody who had seen one of my videos, and she talked about how difficult it is for her to say no. And I had to kind of remind her that guaranteed that the askers will go to people who are readily saying yes. And
Absolutely.
if you decide that you don't have room or bandwidth in your schedule, it's okay to say no. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, okay. And they're thinking, next. Who am I going to ask next then?
Yeah.
And I think that we can be kind in our no's as well. It's why we need to give ourselves time when somebody asks us directly, hey, can you give me a hand with this? I joke about it in my presentations because I say that we need to look the person in the face and say, that sounds like a great idea, or that sounds interesting. You want to meet them with an affirmative rather than, furrowing your brow and go, oh, I'm not sure about this. Because as
No.
soon as you kind of get negative, they'll come in for the jugular.
Yeah.
Like, I really need you. You're amazing. But if you, start with an affirmative, well, it's interesting, they will back off. And then you can say the next part, which is imperative. I'll get back to you in 24 hours. And then
Okay.
get the heck out of there. It's a crucial move because it'll give you time to assess whether the ask is something that you can take on right now. Away
Excellent.
from the
Yeah.
pressures of the person who's asking, because they want the answer now and you don't owe them that. Pause long enough to exit. You may decide, yes, this is something that I do want to do. I'll check my schedule. I'll have a conversation with my family. I'll, figure out that, when I can fit it in. And there's nothing better than saying yes with a clear conscience. There's nothing better than that. Or you're going to walk away and you're going to determine that this is not something you have time for. It's not something you're interested in. It's not something that's going to drive your goals forward. And then you have that time to kind of culminate or to, cultivate your no.
Right.
However it works best for you. Email,
Yeah.
phone call, directly. But give yourself that gift. I don't think enough people do that because they feel, oh, well, I should give them an answer now because they're asking right now. You don't owe them that. So your time is your inventory. And every minute we give away, we can't get back. We can't use it for something
It's
else.
gone.
And so that's something I've learned, to be very protective of my yes.
Okay. So that brings us now to what is a strategic yes?
Yeah. And whether it's a strategic yes or a strategic no, it's kind of the same thing. It means that I've thought about why. The strategic yes means that at least I've determined that this is something that means something to me, whether it's to move my personal professional goals forward or because it's a heck yes, because I really want to do this. strategic, to me, whether it's a strategic yes or a strategic no, means that we pause long enough to ask ourselves, is this something that I need or want to do?
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
So
Give
you said you
ourselves-
were give yourself that pause.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said you were doing this for a month. We're now speaking and recording this a couple of weeks after that month. You've had, a little bit of time to reflect. So how is this going to transform your life going forward?
I'd say that it already has. And, despite the fact that the formal helping hiatus ended at the end of April, I've continued on with the practice of pausing with every request for my time that I get, which is ridiculously freeing. I can't even tell you, because I get to choose. And it's okay to say no. I've given myself permission to say no. And the world does not crumble around me. That's what I've learned. People will, gently say thank you for your time, or they will wait until next week or next month when I, do have time. It's been transformative in that way, just to recognize that my time is mine to give as I choose. My schedule has opened up. Although I will say that one of the awarenesses that I had this week was, because my schedule was quite open, I found that I wasn't using my time as well as I could have. So it's interesting, because the old saying goes, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And when I was scheduled to the eyeballs, I would fit in all of my to-dos kind of between meetings and between other commitments, because that's the only time I had.
Right.
And now with more time, I found that I was taking more time to do the things. And so that's my next kind of awareness, to be more focused on how I use or break up my day or block my time. And so that I'm using that time effectively.
Right.
If I have more time and I'm not using it, then I might as well go back to helping people, right?
Or, you know what? Nourishing yourself, learning, growing.
Well, and to that point, yes, having more time to read, having more time to listen to podcasts, having more time to, go and walk with the dog and listen to an Audible while I'm walking, whatever it might be. Which is a great reminder that you've given me in this instant. I don't have to be head down, productive at every second of every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Or sometimes for me, especially now that we're getting back in the season, a beach walk to just nourish, heal, release. Don't have to be thinking things, listening to podcasts, just to be.
Well, and a reminder that I had to give myself this week was that our bodies go through these cycles, 90 minutes of peak work followed by 20 minutes of, the trough where a brain needs restoration. And the brain does not need a screen or anything during that restoration. It needs movement and fresh air and nourishment and conversations and things that don't necessarily involve technology. 90 minutes peak, 20-minute trough, 90-minute peak. We'll have 4 of those through a day. Take our breaks. Boy, that's a simple one. Step away and nourish your mind and body. Yeah.
Yeah, people delude themselves that they get more done if they skip break, skip lunch, and just keep going.
And that's not how the body works.
Yeah, not at all. Michelle, I talk about soul engineering your leadership in your life. That's about how do you bring your heart and soul into not just work, all of your life, to live more fully, more purposefully. How does this do that?
When we pause long enough to think about the yeses and the nos that we're taking on, it means that we are spending our time working on things that are more in alignment with what's important to us.
Yeah.
So we end up, moving towards our more, our center, more, heart and soul, as you said. If we're saying yes to things that don't quite fill us up, then to me, that's not soul engineering. We need to be deliberate in how we spend our time. And when we spend time on things that fill us up, it can only mean good things. It can only mean an enhancement to work and life. Imagine if the work that you do is as fun and fulfilling as the time off that you have after it. I mean, isn't that the balance that we all want?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And to me, the engineering part of that are the processes that make it soulful. And so that's what you're contributing here.
Well, that's what I love about the work that you do, because it is very much about recognizing heart and soul, but recognizing that we can't be fluffy in how we approach it. Like, we need systems, we need thought behind it, we need to be deliberate in our actions in order to get the outcomes that we want. You can do the
Yeah,
two. I just think it's a fabulous combination.
absolutely. Now, Michelle, we're going to come to the lightning round. But first, you have a resource for our viewers and listeners. Can you tell a bit more about that? What
Yeah,
you're
so I've
providing?
created a dedicated webpage that has all sorts of free resources. There is what I call a work-life reset, and it's a little exercise you can do that looks at 5 areas and what do I need to keep, change, toss, and explore. So it's kind of a connection to the helping hiatus, but to pause and say, are these things that I'm doing in my life congruent with where I am right now? So that's on there. There's a assessing autopilot exercise that's related to my book to find out whether you're operating on autopilot. And there's links to where you can buy my book. There's all sorts of fun stuff there. I might even
Cool.
have added a video. I'll have to take a look before this goes live. Yes. So it's at michellecederberg.com/soul. Kept it nice and
Love it.
simple for you. michellecederberg.com/soul. And I'm guessing that you're going to share that information with them.
I will absolutely. And also, if people want to find you, I know on YouTube, you're at Michelle Cederberg. Where else are great places to find you on socials? You're big on Instagram. I know that.
I'm on Instagram at Cederberg Speaks. And if you do at Cederberg Speaks on TikTok, on Threads, on Facebook, you'll find me there at Cederberg Speaks.
Excellent.
Check it out, check it out. Oh, are you ready for this?
All right. So now we move on to the lightning round. Wahaha. So these are 11 questions that I have. Don't think first thing that comes to mind. All right.
Feels like
Okay.
a test. Okay.
Don't get testy with me. All right. Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
What's the most favorite job you've ever had?
The one I'm doing right now, speaking to audiences. Yep.
Good answer. What's the goofiest thing you've ever done?
Oh my gosh, I was a can-can dancer in the Yukon. Not really goofy, but kind of crazy. Yep.
Wow. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
That I am authentic, that I am, you get what you see with Michelle.
Okay. What's your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
Oh gosh, in my younger years, not believing in myself soon enough, putting myself into imposter syndrome and deciding I was less than. I still have that every now and then, but I've learned that when we stand in who we are, we are just fine. Thank you very much. Still learning, but it's getting solid.
Absolutely. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my gosh. Well, what comes to mind right away is nurse or teacher, but I know that's because that's what my mom would say. It's good to be a nurse or teacher because you'll always have work. She
Yeah.
grew up in a recession time, and she's said to all her daughters, you should be a nurse or a teacher because you'll always have work. So I probably wanted to be one of those.
Okay. What's your most important ritual?
Oh gosh, morning dog walk with Isla. When I'm away, it's really weird. I miss it, but she tells me it's a reminder of how to start the day. So it's a cup of coffee and then a walk and then emails in that order. And so
Okay.
it's very it's a good way to start the day.
Good. Who do you admire?
Right now, not right now, but always my 90-year-old mom. She's still living in her own home. She's transitioning into assisted living right now. And as hard as it is for her, she's just such a trooper. So I'm just kind of in admiration of how strong she is and has always been. Mom.
Okay. How do you nourish yourself?
For me, it's usually on my bike outdoors. Activity is the way that I fill myself up. Mountain biking, road biking, even teaching
Okay.
cycle class, just being outside.
Okay. What do you want to be remembered for?
You know, ironically, you know, making a difference with other people. So it goes back to that helping, you know.
Yeah.
Ironically, yeah, making a difference in the lives of my friends, family, and, you know, my audiences and coaching clients and all that.
Excellent. And what do you see as your purpose in life?
You know, and that has changed over the years. And recently, I think that my purpose in life is to help people see what they are, you know, to help them see. Yeah, I often say I became a coach because I keep meeting people who have no idea how extraordinary they are. And I want to be able to help them see that. So, lifting people up, empowering people to see what's possible for themselves.
I love it. That is awesome. So,
Feels
Michelle,
pretty good.
thank you so much. You passed. You passed.
Hey, yay!
Thank you
Thanks, Rob.
so much for making the time for this. I love anytime we can hang out and sharing this. And remember, she's going to have all these resources available for you at michellcederberg.com/soul. So
Thanks so much, Robbie. This has been a lot of fun, and that's why it was a heck yes.
thank you again. We'll talk with you soon.
I got the energy, it's all I need